Well, hey, McFly subscribers. So today, I'm doing another one of these kind of intro to fly tying kind of videos. Obviously, today the topic is going to be thread. This is McFly Angler.
And it starts now.
Now, last time I did this was a couple months ago. I talked about doing these more regularly. I just haven't got a chance to do them yet. Last time it was scissors. Talked about the different types of scissors, length of the scissor, shape, that type of stuff, and what they're used for. Today, it's going to be thread. Actually, when I did that video, I had asked everyone what they wanted to hear about next, and most people said they wanted to learn about thread. I've got quite a bit of thread here. I've got quite a bit more in other parts of my room. So this is just kind of a small sample of the different threads I've got. I don't have every thread out there. There's definitely other threads out there, specifically for fly tying, I mean. Different brands. One of my favorites is Vivas, which I've got all lined up here. But there is Uni. There's Uni. There's Ultra Thread, which is by UTC. There's Danville. There is Semperfi, which is a little bit newer, I believe, of a company, but they make some really good thread. So while not extensive, this is a couple more brands. There's Guide Broad and there's Griffith. Those are two that I've seen as well. Now, I believe both of those, I think Griffith still makes them. I think Guide Broad is now completely gone. Like, they don't make thread anymore, but I could be wrong. See, I worked at a little fly shop on the San Juan River for a while, and there was a few brands that they had there that were older that I had seen before. There, though, we tied a bunch of really tiny, small midges. So, for instance, Griffith, I believe they make a 14-aught, which is really small, and they use those for the small little midge flies, which makes sense. You know, it's a really fine thread. And then Guide Broad makes a range of different threads as well, or at least they used to. Now, I'm not sure Griffith makes anything bigger than the 14-aught. I think they're just small. Most of the brands have quite a different, range of different sizes. For instance, here is Vivas at 16-aught, 10-aught, 14-aught. I got that backwards there, don't I? 14-aught, then 10-aught, then 6-aught, then 140, and 240. So that kind of brings me into the sizes, what that means. What is 16-aught? What is 240? What is the difference there? What is 70? What is, all these different sizes? Well, everything has to do the correct representation of a thread for the size of the thread, the thickness of the thread is the denier. So that is the measurement. So for instance, when you see a full number, so it's not like a 6-aught or a 10-aught or whatever, when you see a full number, that is the denier. So for instance, in Vivas, all these threads, they're an aught size, which isn't a specific denier. Here is 140 and 240. That is 140 denier and 240 denier. This is very thick. Now you've got 70 denier here with the ultra thread that I've got. And I believe they make down to 30 denier, which is really fine. That's going to be more like 14-aught, maybe even 16-aught. Now some brands will tell you, for instance, this is 6-aught, but they're also telling you it's 100 denier. Now, there we go, it's focusing. That's also 100D, which is 100 denier. So here, also is the same thing, Danville. This is 6-aught, but it's 70 denier. Generally, most 6-aught is going to be roughly around that 70 denier, but not always. I believe Unithread, I could be wrong, but I believe Unithread is a little bit thicker than the Danville 6-aught. And so it just depends on the company when they, the size of it when they're calling it by an aught. So for instance, this 16-aught might be a little bit thicker than the 17-aught from Uni, which actually Uni makes a 17-aught, which I don't have it. I don't use it, but that's really fine. That's actually finer, I believe, than the 16-aught which makes sense. That is, but not much difference in the aught. You wouldn't think, this is not a unified, is what I'm trying to say. It's not a unified measurement between all the different companies. All of Viva's 16-aught is going to be the same down the board. All of Uni 17-aught is going to be the same down the board, but you can't go by 6-aught and 6-aught, the Viva 6-aught and the Uni 6-aught and the 6-aught from Danville are all going to be a little bit different. Same thing with the 70 Ultra Thread. Now, they don't do by an aught. Ultra Thread goes only by Denier. Some companies like Vivas will do aughts and then also with their thicker threads, the Deniers, okay? This is a really thick thread. This one is, if I can get it to focus, is 400 Denier. It's big fly thread. This is some real thick thread. Really strong, really good for big flies. Pike flies, big saltwater flies. Now, I don't use it for this, but, big saltwater stuff. This isn't even all that big, but this is something I tied up recently. I actually used the Vivas 140, but in olive, okay? So actually, that exact thread right there. That's strong enough for what I'm using that for, but, just depends on, generally, the larger the aught size, so 16 is going to be finer than 14, finer than 10, finer than 6-aught, right? Generally, a finer thread is going to be, obviously, not as strong as a thicker thread. A thicker thread is going to be stronger. But when you're tying really small flies, you can't use a 140 power thread, a 240, whatever it may be, 140. Sometimes even a 70-aught or a 70 Denier or 6-aught is going to be too thick for some of these really small flies. So size of thread, that's one measurement. The other thing has to do with how the thread is spun. So you've got flat threads and you've got round threads. Danville is a round thread. Same with Vivas 6-aught, that's a round thread. It doesn't flatten, as in if you spin the thread counterclockwise, a lot of times with some flatter threads like this Vivas 10-aught, like all the Ultra threads, they're all flat. If you spin that counterclockwise, you can flatten the thread out and make a finer thread wrap. It won't bulk up as much. However, because it's flattened, then it's not quite as strong. So it depends on what you're doing. It depends on how you're using it. Now, with a flat thread, what I like about flat threads myself, I use it quite a bit. Even this 140 power thread, that's a flat thread. Okay, but you can actually cord that up. Now, it's a very strong thread, but you can cord that up. So you spin it clockwise, cord it up, then you can make it stronger. So if you're really trying to tie in something really tight, for instance, if I'm doing like a deer hair bug where I have to really wind down tight, okay, to flare that hair out, I want to spin it to make it corded, to make sure it's very corded. Or I could use something that is already corded, like a 6-aught. Well, actually, you'd want something a little thicker for deer hair usually, but you get the point. You want something a little bit stronger, a little bit finer to be able to flare that out versus flattened out, if that makes sense. So that's one other thing that kind of depends on what you're doing and how you're tying, is the way that the thread is corded. But you can actually fan this out. I don't know if you can see that, but it's a whole bunch of little fine pieces of thread. Now, one bad thing is if you nick the tip, like your hook, while you're tying, you could fray one or two of the strands. That is possible. And that's why a thicker thread, or not thicker, sorry, a round thread is going to be a little bit stronger, a little easier to use. But then again, there's certain things that you can do with the flat thread you can't do with the round, and vice versa, okay? The other thing also has to do with different companies and what material they use to make their thread. So for instance, you might ask, well, why can't I just go to a sewing shop? You go to a sewing shop and you get some of the thread there for just sewing, okay? Well, unfortunately, that thread is not going to be as strong as most of the fly tying thread out there. In fact, I think any of the fly tying thread. You're going to pay a little bit more money for fly tying thread than you would for non-fly tying thread. You get less of it. So usually this is 100 meters here. This is 200 yards of thread. 200 yards of thread, it says there. This one's 100 yards of thread. And it usually costs more, okay? But this is much stronger. All these are going to be much stronger than what you get in a shop, like a sewing shop, okay? You want to go and get something that's actually for fly tying, okay? And that's why I mentioned those brands. Now, there's other brands of thread out there. You can get any thread. The problem is once you start tying tightly, any kind of pressure on that, especially if you're tying in materials that could fray a thread, you're going to break the thread if you're using just regular thread. That's one issue a lot of people that are new into this have, where they just go buy a spool of thread, think they're getting a better deal from Walmart or whatever in the sewing section. And they're like, man, I'm breaking thread left and right. Well, that's the reason you're not getting stuff made for fly tying, okay? And even in the brands of fly tying, they have different ways of making their thread, different materials they use. For instance, here's a good example. This is called nano silk. It's basically a GSP thread. So GSP is a new type of thread. It's not new, it's been around for a while, but it's not like some of these here. It's a little bit slicker. I don't like using it personally, but it is ridiculously strong. You can't break this stuff. Now this one is flat, it's a bunch of small strands, but I mean, even if you nick this on your hook, it most likely isn't going to fray. This stuff, it is extremely strong. Okay, a lot of people use these for deer hair bugs because it is slick. It allows you, if you're spinning deer hair, for it to be slick and kind of rotate that deer hair around. I've got actually that stuff, same size. This is black, this is white, and I use it for different deer hair bugs. Okay, I've got a couple other colors of it. Okay, but it's GSP. It's a different formation of formula of thread that they used that makes it extremely strong. But again, very slick, so you really got to make sure that you tie down tight, and you got to make sure that you cement the head really well, or everything's going to unravel, okay? Same thing, here is also, that's GSP, that's what they call their GSP is nano silk, okay? It is basically GSP, they call it nano silk. This is from Semperfly, Semperfly, hope I'm saying that right. But here is a 12-aught and a 6-aught, so much finer. This is a 200 denier, so that's going to be much heavier. In the Vivis, so that's about right the same as the 240, a little bit less, right in between, okay? Pretty heavy thread, okay? More for larger stuff. If you want something super strong with that same material, then you can get this, and I believe some other brands do make some finer GSP, and even Vivis, I believe, makes it. But it is extremely strong for being so fine. For instance, this 12-aught, it's, I believe, 50 denier. Okay, so that's about like the 14-aught here, maybe 10-aught, okay? That's going to be finer than 70 denier or any of these. It's a pretty fine thread, okay? This one's 100 denier, that's what their 6-aught is, so it's roughly in between these two. It's a little bit thicker, okay? But comes in a couple colors. It's a good thread. But it's that GSP, so this is going to be even stronger, most likely, than any of these 140s, 210s. It's probably going to be stronger, even though it's only a 50 denier. Definitely stronger than the 70, probably stronger than 6-aught. Maybe pushing if you're going to 140, I don't know. But haven't really tested that specifically, but I do know that since it's GSP, it's going to be super strong. And I believe this is GSP. I think that's what this is. I know that Semperfy makes a couple different kinds of thread, and I believe the Nano Silk that's what it is, GSP. But again, you've got different brands, different styles. I've got all white here to show all the different threads of different sizes with Vivis, kind of demonstrate that. But as you can see, you can get all different colors. And this is definitely not all the colors that Vivis offers in each of these. This is all 16-aught. This is all the 140 that I've got. I've got a couple other colors, I think. Yeah, like black and I've got white as well in that, but they make some others, okay? Not just Vivis, though. Danville has a wide range of colors. Uni has a wide range of colors. The Ultra Thread UTC actually probably has some of the widest range of colors. They really have a wide range. Here's a good example. I've got right here an olive, but like a yellow olive. This is a brown. Different colors of brownish or olive-ish. You can see such a wide range. It's not just here we've got 3 different colors of olive, and then we're moving into brown, but you can see this isn't even an extensive list. They've got colors that are in between these two. They've got something that is darker olive. I mean, they've got such a wide range of colors. Very close, but just slightly different. So again, they've got such a wide range, and a bunch of companies do that. Now, that could cost you a fortune. Some of these are $3 to $5 a spool. You might be able to get some a little less depending on what fly shop you go to, what online shop, whatever it may be. But generally, you're looking at $3 to $5. I've seen some local shops sell for even more. So that could cost you a near fortune if you're trying to get every color for every fly. If you're just starting, is to get yourself a set of Sharpies. Okay, you could do Sharpies. They're probably the cheapest option, but you can get for like $10, maybe $15. You can get a whole bunch of probably 15 different colors of Sharpies. And for most flies, when you're tying, for instance, unless you're tying something like a thread body, okay, like a midge, for most midges, you're going to be, the whole body is going to be the thread, so it's going to be showing. So that might be a pain to do it that way. However, with midges, you're probably just going to want black, red, and maybe like a cream. Okay, maybe an olive, whatever. You don't need such a wide range. This is not focusing. Come on. There we go. So that kind of doesn't really apply there. But for a lot of flies, for instance, let's just use this as an example. The whole fly was tied with this olive color, but you don't see it because everything is covered. You can see underneath. Even here, I'm covering the body with some flash, okay? So the thread isn't going to be seen until the head. So what you could do, a little trick that you can do if you just, if you need a wide range of different sizes, or you just, you need just one size, you're tying, a couple different colors of a pattern, you could just get white. And what you do is you just, at the end, when you're about ready to whip finish or build up the head, okay, of the fly, come on, focus. I don't know what's up with this camera. You could then just run the Sharpie down the thread and then build up the head, cover all the white thread wrap with whatever color you want. You can get, like I said, there's just a couple handful that I've got sitting next to me, but you can get hundreds of different colors. Maybe not hundreds. You can get dozens of different colors of Sharpies. And just run that on there and then whip finish over that, and you could end up with whatever color you want. Okay, so then you can just get white. And so another thing besides just fly tying thread doesn't have to just be for tying stuff on. You've got stuff like floss. So unfortunately, this is the only color floss I've got, but this is floss. Basically, floss is kind of like a flat thread. It's like usually it's pretty thick. It's like a 210 denier almost, about that in thickness, maybe a little thicker. And I would say actually even closer to this 400 denier. It's usually pretty thick. It is flatter, so you can flatten this out and really kind of, you can see it's flattened out, quite a flat thread. Okay. But usually very, very shiny, very slick. But it's made a lot of salmon fly tyers use floss to cover up bodies. So instead of body wrap, they'll just use it's a body wrap. Floss is very popular for that. I don't use floss a lot myself. When I do need it, sometimes I'll just grab a 140 denier, depending on the fly of anything. It's not quite as shiny as you can see. The floss has like this radiant shine to it, but it's up to you. There is some other options. So you've got floss, you've got this interesting stuff, and again, this isn't all extensive. This is iris thread, so it is a thread, okay, but it's got a bunch of we call it iris thread, but it's got a bunch of flash mixed in, so it's pretty cool for making midge bodies. There's some interesting uses for it. Collars on flies, whatever it may be. Got other options. This comes in wide range of colors, more than I have here. There's a bunch of options of different types of threads that aren't just what you would think of as a fly tying thread. Now, one thing I always recommend for new tyers is figure out what fly you want to tie. So for instance, if you want to tie some streamers, good bet is going to be like a woolly bugger. So let's use that as an example. Let's say you want to tie a woolly bugger. Well, start with one color. You don't have to tie 15 different colors of woolly buggers. You don't have to tie 15 different styles of streamers. Start with a woolly bugger. Choose whatever color that is best in your local river. So for instance, if you catch the most amount of flies or fish on a olive woolly bugger, grab olive. And you can grab an olive thread and tie woolly buggers with that olive thread, or just get white, okay, and get an olive Sharpie. This is of course red, but and finish the head with that olive Sharpie. Get a few materials that you need just to tie that one fly, and once you get used to tying that fly and learning off that fly, then go out, because this can get really expensive, obviously. 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50, 55, 60, 65, 70, 75, 80. Right there, I've got $80 worth of thread, roughly. Maybe a little less, depending on where you buy it. But, that's a lot of money just for thread. Then you got to buy materials and all this stuff. If you're buying all the colors, you don't need to do that right off the bat. Stick with one color. Start off that way. Then move in if you want to get, tie some brown buggers or white buggers or black buggers, whatever you want to do. Then get different threads if you want, or different color Sharpies, whatever you may want. And that way you can get into it a little less expensive, because this is a very expensive hobby if you just kind of go all out, okay? Because not only that, you got to buy your vise, you got to buy the tools, bobbin holder, okay, to hold these thread things. You gotta buy scissors. Got to buy whip finishers, or learn how to tie by hand, or whip finish by hand if you want. You got to buy, there's so much different stuff that you can get or might have to get to start. And so I always recommend starting with one fly, getting just some materials just for that fly, start off that way, and then move into something a little bit, start expanding your horizons, if that makes sense. So again, maybe another color bugger. Get the materials you need for that. Okay, all the hackle and the chenille and the marabou or whatever that you need for tying a bugger in a different color. And then if you want to move on to tying something, a little bit more complicated, like a deceiver, then, okay, then get a different color thread that you need for it, whatever it may be. Get more materials for that, different hooks, that kind of thing. It's just going to be so much better. So, find a thread that you like. You don't have to stick with it. You can get all different kinds from different brands. Obviously, I've got a bunch of different brands of threads, and sometimes you don't get a color that you might want. Maybe you want this to be a little bit more yellow, so you might have to go with a different brand. Okay, anything that is made for fly tying generally is going to be good thread for you, and you're going to like it. Just make sure you get the right size and whatever color you want. Hope this helps. So, any questions you have, go ahead and leave them in the comment section. Also, in the description section, I will link to some websites where you can buy some thread if your local fly shop doesn't sell it, or if it's just too expensive for you at your local fly shop. Also, I work with, if you want some other materials, I work with Risen Fly, www.risenflyfishing.com. They sell fly tying materials, their own brand, actually. And it's good stuff, really good stuff. In fact, all the scissors I use are theirs, because it's high quality scissors and they're relatively less expensive than most of the others out there, and it's all really good quality. They make high quality stuff. They also sell rods and reels, and so that is really high quality rods and reels for very low price, and they also are giving you a discount. Type in McFly at checkout, and your first order with them, they will give you also 15% off, okay, of anything. So get a rod if you want. If you're looking for a rod, go ahead and check them out. They have really good rods. In fact, they have a $100 rod that is one of the best rods I've ever used. It's one of my favorites. It's not a $900 Sage, but I find it better all around than some of those $900 Sage X's, whatever it may be. I find it a better all around rod. So for a beginner, it's probably going to be way better for you than something like a $900 rod. Okay, so it's $100 plus you get $109, I believe, is what the price is, but you get a discount, 15% off. It'll be below $100. And after tax, probably right around $100, okay? So definitely check that out. Plus, it helps out my channel when you order from them, because it keeps them wanting to work with me. Also, I have, if you're interested, I also do like live video chats with my patrons. So go to www.patreon.com, okay? And then / McFly Angler. Okay, and or just go on to the website. You can search McFly Angler, however is easier for you if you can't remember that full tag. But go there, and for as little as $1 a month, you can jump on there. I give some extra help, my videos come out usually at least a week, sometimes 2 weeks, maybe even earlier than when they come out here on YouTube. Okay, I allow my patrons to have early access to my videos. Also, you can jump on my live stream so you can ask questions. I usually do an hour every month. I have a live stream, and it's actually about 45 minutes. That's all that it allows me with the streaming service I've got. But I'm working on that. Might be able to bump that up to an hour, but that'll allow that. You guys can jump on there if for as little as $1 a month. You can jump on and be able to, chat with me and some other patrons. If you have questions, maybe extra questions that I can't really answer here on YouTube. Although I'll try. If you have questions, I'll do my best. But I find if you want to extensive questions, it's just going to be easier on there. Okay. And there's a bunch of other. I sell flies, so. I give discounts for some of the tiers on my patrons' accounts, and you can order from there, or just let me know in the comment section how to order, and if you want to order, let me know that you're interested, and I'll let you know. Actually, I'll tell you right now. Go to Instagram, find me, McFly Angler on Instagram. You can ask me there. That's probably the best way. Or Facebook. I do have a Facebook. You can private message me on Facebook, or in the About section of my YouTube homepage. So if you go to my YouTube homepage, and then there's a little kind of bar, has a couple different links to it, but About, okay? So different tabs. The About tab, you click that, and then down below, there'll be a little hidden section that you got to click. I think it says email. It might say contact. I'm not sure exactly, but click that, and then my email will open up. You can also email me. So whatever is best. If you don't have Instagram or any social media, you can go there and order from me. Well, with that all out of the way, I hope this was helpful. I will see you guys on the next video. Now you go catch some fish.